Buenas tardes. Para aquellos que deseen escuchar esta junta en español, vamos a tener interpretación simultánea. Tengo audífonos aquí del lado izquierdo. Gracias.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can you guys hear me okay? There we go. Sorry, my height. I'll squat a little bit. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mark Kretschmer, and I want to welcome you all to Thomas Aquinas College. I first want to thank the Fritz Burns Foundation for fully funding the construction of this hall. Without their support, the college would not be able to offer this venue for tonight's meeting. As an educational institution where all classes are taught using the discussion method, we strive to have respectful, thoughtful discussions focused on understanding the heart of the matter. I hope tonight we can all come together as a community to have the same type of fruitful discussion to find solutions for dealing with not only the mudslide, but also its many impacts for folks on both sides of the side. I want to thank both CalTrans and the county leadership, particularly Supervisors Long and LaVere, for having these community meetings, listening to our feedback, and updating us all on the progress being made. Thank you for being here tonight. Couple notes. I was asked that if anyone in the audience knows of anyone that is either on their way to the meeting or not able to make the meeting, this is being broadcast on vcemergency.com. So you can text them that information and they can watch. And if anyone needs to use the restrooms, the ladies' restroom is off to this side and the men's restroom is off to this side. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt LaVere, and I serve as the 1st District County Supervisor. And I appreciate all of you being here tonight. I want to start by just expressing, I'm not living in Upper Ohio. I'm not going to pretend that I know what the real-world impacts of having this road closure are, but I can assure you that at the county, we are treating it with a sense of absolute urgency in trying to rectify and blunt as many of the impacts as we can. Pending the work being done by CalTrans. And I can tell you, having nearly daily communications with CalTrans during these last 3 weeks, they share that sense of urgency. They are working around the clock, doing everything they can to get this road cleaned up and open. And you're going to hear from a lot of them tonight with some updates. We started holding these community meetings pretty close after the hillside came down, and our goal as a county is to, to support CalTrans in their mission to get the road repaired, but also to hear the concerns that we might be able to help out with. And some of those concerns we heard out initially had to do with police coverage, and thanks to our wonderful Sheriff's Office, and Chief Newman is here from the Ojai Department, we're having enhanced patrols. We heard about concern about EMS response and ambulance coverage, and thanks to our amazing fire department and our EMS coordinator, Steve Carroll, we've been able to station a 24-hour ambulance up here, and being hosted by the Upper Ojai Search and Rescue Team. So I know Bill Slaughter's here. Thank you, Bill. I've heard about postage and the concern about mail, and we have an update I want to give you. We've been working closely with Congressman Carbajal's office, and he has told me to let everyone know that if there is concern about, I get it, I've heard that they're asking you right now to go all the way around and to get your mail in Santa Paula, and that's not fair. I totally understand that. And so what Congressman Carbajal was able to put together was getting the mail transferred. If it was going to Santa Paula initially, he's going to be able to have it transferred to the Ojai post office and then delivered. The one hiccup, and I hate to say it, is that for this to happen, if you have if you're a resident in Upper Ojai and you need that done, the post office is asking that you go to the Ojai station, to the Ojai post office, and fill out a form. They want to verify addresses. They want to verify identity, that you're actually a resident up here. But he said, if there's any questions, please reach out to Congressman Carbajal's office. You can do that through my office if you have trouble doing that. If you have questions about this process, please reach out to myself or Congressman Carbajal, and we can point you in the right direction. But he did say that the Ojai post office is prepared to have that mail diverted from Santa Paula to Ojai for those who need coverage without having to go, that hour and a half trip all the way to Santa Paula. But with that, a lot of the county leadership is here. I want to acknowledge our county CEO, Dr. Johnson, who is here, our fire chief, Dustin Gardner. A lot of county leadership is here. You're going to hear also from VCTC, who's going to give you that's Ventura County Transportation Commission, about a really important update about shuttle service that we're happy to announce tonight to help provide some extra coverage for those forced into a longer drive. But with that, I would like to invite up Manny Menajeres, who is a district representative for Supervisor Kelly Long, and I know he has a message from Supervisor Long, and then we'll have our Assistant County CEO, Mike Pettit, speak as well. But we're here all night, so please, when it's time for questions, we're here, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have. But thank you for being here. I always forget something. For those who might need it, we have Spanish language interpretation this evening. If anyone here wants Spanish language interpretation, do you have a... Oh, you already did? if you already did it, we're okay, but just wanted to make sure people know that if they need the translation, that service is here. Thank you for being here and helping out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Supervisor LaVere. Once again, Manuel Manjares, District Representative with Ventura County Supervisor Kelly Long. I'll be reading some remarks on her behalf. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to say a few words on Supervisor Long's behalf. The supervisor wanted to be here for this meeting, but had a previous commitment in Washington, D.C. scheduled for this week that she planned several weeks ago. We wholeheartedly echo Supervisor LaVere's comments, and we recognize the immense impact that this road closure has had on the residents in this area. We are 100% committed to working with all of our partners throughout the county to provide relief wherever possible. Supervisor Long would like to thank CalTrans and all of our public safety agencies for expressing just how big a priority this project is for them, making their staff available to to participate in these last few community meetings on such short notice, and for their willingness to explore every viable solution to expedite the resolution of this road closure. Your feedback is an immense help to make sure that we know what your needs are, and it gives us the ability to plan accordingly. For that, Supervisor Long would like to express to you our sincere gratitude for taking the time from your busy lives to help us help you. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everybody. I would like to take just a second to thank our host, Vice President Kretschmer. Thank you very much for making this beautiful hall available for tonight's town hall. I'm a Ojai community resident myself. I raised my family here in this beautiful valley for 30 years, and I've hiked through this campus, but I've never had a chance to be in the facility, and it's stunning. So we're glad that you're all here tonight with us. Our goal tonight is to share detailed information about the restoration of this important thoroughfare. And we wholeheartedly put all of the resources of the county, all of our agencies and departments, our leadership behind and in support of CalTrans as they do this important work. The goal tonight is to share details on the work that has been done already, the work that is ongoing, and how soon that will happen with all of you. And as a fellow Ojai resident, I know that this is impactful. This road is used every day for people going to work, going to school, and it impacts your livelihood, all of our livelihood, and our goal is to restore that as quickly and safely as possible. As the supervisor shared, our public safety is
it has to be dealt with very careful preparation and precautions, because if we were to start removing any of the material right now, more material would come down on the slide. This requires safety, and safety is the absolute #1 priority of CalTrans. Safety for everyone in the area, workers at the scene, anybody who has any reason to be out there, safety, safety, safety. Now, I'm going to begin a PowerPoint presentation. I'll try to cover a lot of material and do it kind of quickly. I will be the last one here to leave tonight because I'm going to stay around to answer any questions that anyone has. So we'll get to the question and answer period pretty soon, but how about if we begin? You know, one quick thing. CalTrans is really grateful and gratified by the incredible support that we are receiving from every governmental and any other organization, whether it's at the federal level, the members of Congress, whether it's at the county level, Supervisor LaVere's office, Supervisor Long's office, and many others in county fire and sheriff and others. If I tried to list them all, I'd still leave out somebody. So I just want to say that this is a tremendous example of public, governmental, and public safety organizations coming together. And you can rest assured, behind the scenes, people are working extended hours, double time, trying to accelerate the completion of this process. CalTrans is 100% committed to getting the highway open as quickly as possible and doing everything we can to speed up the process. But this is a complex, multi-step process, as you'll see in a moment. So can we begin? Look, there it is. Okay. Do I remove the mic? Do I remove the mic or use the other mic? Okay. All right. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. So just to quickly recap how we got to where we are today. Monday, February 19th, there was a flow of material onto the Highway 150, and CalTrans was out there, and we pushed some of it out of the way. The following morning, we had activity even despite the K-rail or the concrete barriers that we placed to try to contain it. Overnight, Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, we had the massive flow of mud totally covering both lanes, obviously. And this is how it looked that morning around 10 a.m. Just a huge, huge amount of material and a slightly different view of the same scene. And this is how it was looking the next day on the north side as Edison had its crews out there to move and work on their lines. Then the drilling operation began. CalTrans is doing an intensive geotechnical investigation of the slide to figure out really what's down there, how much more is going to move, and what has to be done to stabilize the material and prevent further movement so we can safely begin building a retaining wall and removing the material from the roadway. We'll have more about this in just a moment. This is another shot of the drilling operation. These big drills drilled at multiple locations down to a depth of about 130 feet to get core samples that can be tested in the lab, which is underway right now. And as you know, I guess we don't have to linger on this slide. This is the situation. CalTrans is extremely aware of the incredible hardship and inconvenience and delay and cost that this imposes on so many people, thousands of people who rely on this highway every day. And that is why we are committed to doing everything we can to getting the highway open as quickly as we possibly can. So a recap, and this is not a complete list, and in just kind of a highlight fashion, CalTrans immediately got a contractor. We immediately got authorization for the funding that will be required to do this. The funding is not an issue. There's no holdup on funding. The geotechnical engineers drilled to obtain core samples, which are in the lab now, in multiple labs because of multiple samples. This is going to give us important, essential knowledge about the slide material itself. The design team has already started doing preliminary work, even though they really need the results of the geotechnical investigation before they can come up with a full design. They've already started some preliminary work based on their best hunch about what we're really going to have to do, and they're going to turn around their finished product in a matter of just a few days by working on extended shifts. Similarly, the construction division, which is going to have to do the work on the road and get rid of the slide, they've already begun making preparations so that there's no delay and they can get going as quickly as they get the results from the design team. We have been working exhaustively and intensively on, is there a pedestrian path that we can do? Is there some kind of a vehicle bypass? And as you're going to hear tonight more about the shuttle bus, we looked intensively at what we could do for a pedestrian path, and the issue is either the path would be so close to the slide that it would be unsafe, and we could not recommend it for people to use, or it would be farther away and it would be on private property, and we respect private property issues. We don't, and then there's still the incredible time it would take to go down that route, and it would even ultimately distract from the core mission of getting the highway open as quickly as possible. We are continuing to respond to weather-related concerns on Route 150. Of course, Denison grade, we've got maintenance crews there constantly keeping a close eye on it and removing slide material, mud that comes down. We are insistent on absolutely keeping that route open, obviously. We're providing updates to the community and to motorists. It's important to us to provide updated information to you. We place a very high priority on giving you the straight scoop about what's really happening. We work for you, the taxpayers. We don't want to do anything other than give you the straight information about what's really happening. And finally, any other local needs, both in the closed area, the area that's closed to through traffic, and anywhere else in the vicinity, we are continuing to respond to those needs. Okay, so I'll try to be quick. I've already addressed some of these points, but give me a second here. We'll say that the plan of action from the geotechnical investigation includes monitoring the slide for additional movement, which we are doing. There is, I'm told, small expansion of that slide, but I mean, we don't expect massive movement as long as we act prudently and carefully. So we're drilling core samples, which has been completed. They're now being investigated in the lab as part of the report to recommend the safest path forward. And that will include a mitigation strategy for roadway construction. The construction is going to be a temporary retaining wall. We assume it'll be a single retaining wall. It may be more than one retaining wall. The geotechnical investigation and report will tell us exactly where a retaining wall needs to be built, how long. It'll tell us whether we actually need two to hold that much slide material. Once the retaining wall is built, we can begin removing material. Once the retaining wall is built, we can begin removing the slide material that's on the roadway. We're going to have to repair the highway itself. I mean, with this much activity and this much construction, you know that there's going to be, and the slide activity, you know there's going to be damage to the pavement, but also guardrails and all kinds of other elements, the drainage, that are important elements of having a good functioning, safe highway. Finally, we'll be able to open the highway for traffic. That will be a wonderful day. We do not have a firm estimate because there are so many factors that we still don't know, and there are so many factors that are beyond our control, like the weather, our best hope is that by the end of May, we hope that we can have at least one lane open to traffic, which would involve a delay. As you know, elsewhere on Route 150, we've got one-way traffic control with flag crews. That may be what we're looking at here also when it opens. And then just to quickly recap the timeline. So the geotechnical investigation and report completed by the end of this month. The design would be finished actually within a week. It's already started on tentative assumptions of what it's probably going to require, and start construction of the retaining wall in April. That's hopeful because some of the materials are going to be giant metal beams that have to be placed deep in the ground, really long, and it can take time to acquire as many as are needed, depending on the type and size that are specified to do a safe and effective retaining wall. If we start removing slide material by late April, we can hopefully see something happening to rebuild the roadway to get a lane open by late May. These are estimates, these are target dates, these are subject to change. We've been asked for a little bit of an update on what are the utilities along the highway, and this is what I can tell you. There's a 6-inch crude oil pipeline, Crimson Pipeline Company. It's gravity fed, flowing toward Santa Paula. It is operational. There's a 5-inch gas pipeline, Carbon Energy Corporation. They depressurized it. In other words, they took it out of service because of the landslide situation. Southern California Gas has a transmission line and a distribution line. They are on the scene. They are marking their utility lines. They are physically present. At this point, they're monitoring it very carefully, but those lines are still operating. There's a drinking water distribution line of the city of Santa Paula, which is in operation. There's one more irrigation line, a local irrigation line that's still operational and still there under the roadway. The contractor and construction dig alert service and all the utility companies who deal with these things are out there and have marked all of their lines. And then the overhead utilities, Southern California Edison relocated their lines away from the construction area. That's been done. AT&T is doing the same and will finish this week. Spectrum has one line, and they plan to finish their relocation work this week. And Frontier, putting all of their lines underground away from this location, and will finish by late March, late this month. This is my contact information. This is my cell phone. I have it. I'm the only one who answers it. Please call me. Please text me if you have any questions at all, and I will respond to you. You can send me an email, and if you don't want to spell my name, you can just send it to D7 Inquiries. It will take a tad longer to be routed to me, but I will get it. And I mean, do contact me anytime if you have any questions whatsoever. We have a website about this project, which is the long one, the second one that's listed there. But if you just go to the CalTrans District 7 website and look for current projects, it'll take you to, look for the Route 150 mudslide recovery. It'll take you to this website, which has some information now, and it will have more. It's only limited information now, but we're continuing to add to it. And Twitter. If you're on Twitter, you can find us there. If you are a person who does not like social media and never want to use social media, you can see everything Caltrans posts by just typing into your browser twitter.com/CalTrans Dist 7. It'll take you just to the page that shows what CalTrans is posting there. And it's CalTrans District 7, not the full statewide. CalTrans District 7 includes Los Angeles and Ventura counties, and I'm based here in Ventura County. Okay, so that is it, I guess. Is this a good time for questions and answers? Okay. Well then.
My name is Clint Garman. I represent Supervisor LaVere, and I have a microphone. If you do have a question, please raise your hand, and I'll walk it up to you. We go across lines to be patient, and I want to make sure we get you all into this. So who'd like to go first? I'm told make sure that we speak slowly and clearly. Sometimes I do not do that, so if we do that, we can pass it. We can't do it. Cool. Thank you, Carmen.
Good evening. My name is Corinne Bell. I'm a resident in the area. I actually live right next door between Santa Paula and Thomas Aquinas College. I just would like to publicly thank the County of Ventura for being so incredibly responsive to this event. We went to the Ventura County Transportation Commission meeting on, I think, a Thursday, and by Monday we had a public meeting, and by Wednesday we had another public meeting, and here we are this week. So I just really appreciate everything that's been done. Monday we expressed a lot of concerns. By Wednesday, those public safety concerns were addressed. We were concerned about response time of medical needs, and also if there was some kind of burglary or theft. And within days, we had an ambulance stationed at the summit, and I was told the sheriff's deputy's car was there. So thank you again. I'd also like to thank VCTC for being very responsive to our concerns about needs for a shuttle. I'm very concerned about all of our farm workers being able to get to work, our food service workers, our household help, all the people who are barely surviving, and the gas is costing them to come around to work in Ohio, to work in our valley. So thank you very, very much. I would like to address CalTrans at this point, and thank you for taking this situation very seriously. Last night, as I was listening to the wind howl and picturing all the avocados dropping to the ground for all these poor farmers, I was reminded of the evening of December 4th, 2017, the Thomas fire. I was at work. My husband called me about 6:30 and said, "You better come home, there's fire on the hill." So I raced home. By the time I got home, there was fire everywhere. I had just enough time to get my children, my dogs, the rabbits, a few pictures off the wall, and we had fire all around us. And my maternal instinct kicked in, and I flew past my sister's house, and praying got out. Flew past my parents' house, praying got out. I had to get my kids to safety. We get to the bridge at Santa Park, and it's absolute mayhem. The KOA is evacuating at the same time. There's motorhomes with their pop-outs, with hoses flying everywhere. If fire personnel were not there, we would have all died. Where did we evacuate to? 150 Santa Paula, because guess what? Upper Ohio was entirely in flames. So I'm asking, where would we evacuate to now? If this were to happen right now, where would we go? It would be another paradise. And so I appreciate the urgency and the consideration you're taking in making this project move as absolutely quickly as possible, because it truly is an emergency in the making. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I'm sure the county appreciates them, and CalTrans certainly does appreciate them. And your observation that this is an extremely important highway, and at this point, there's only one route in and out. CalTrans is extremely aware and conscious of that, and that is one of the reasons that everyone, including CalTrans, is doing everything we can think of to accelerate the entire process. Thank you for being here and for sharing the very important awareness of the need for being prepared to leave ahead of any emergency so that when it's time to evacuate, you can evacuate your family quickly. That is important, and it's an excellent reminder for all of us. So thank you.
Thank you very much. This is Chris. I live here in Upper Ohio. I was wondering if you could help us understand the various elements that are going into this geotechnical investigation, as you call it, that warrant such a lengthy time before we expect a resolution to that.
I'd like to introduce Jacqueline Martin with our geotechnical division.
Good evening. So I'm Jacqueline Martin. I'm with the Office of Geotechnical Design South. And so initially the slide came down. I don't have the dates. I don't know if we could show, but on the 19th. And I believe some of it was removed. And then on the 21st, right? Sorry, I have to remember. Yeah. It came down a second time with a lot more debris. So at that point, we realized that it had grown in size. It had came down in multiple slides, not just one. One piece came down, the second one came down. And it concerned us, a lot of water, right? There was a lot of rain occurring. We have rain, I think, in the forecast tomorrow. So we were concerned. And so what we did is we immediately hired a drill rig, got them out there, brought in a second rig, so we could have 2 rigs going at the same time. We're able to get the investigation done in a week, which is very accelerated. Once we finished with the drilling, we were able to collect core samples, evaluate the core samples, try to see if we could figure out the extent of the landslide. We're looking for a slide plane. We want to make sure that when we build this wall, that we're able to get our ground anchors, as we call them, back through the backside of the slide plane to make sure it holds the wall. That's the goal. And so by doing that, we have to drill, collect the core samples, run them into run lab samples, and then wait to get the results. So we have 3 different laboratories running right now, because normally you would turn in your samples. They only have so many machines. And we have to make sure that we accelerate as much as possible. So we have 3 labs so that there's multiple machines going running the lab samples at the same time. Now, once we get those lab samples back, we'll be able to evaluate the strength of the material, be able to give the recommendations to our bridge design department. For the meantime, we're working collaboratively with them. We have our preliminary design, they have their preliminary design, but we can't finalize it until we get these lab samples back. So hopefully that answers your question. And once we get those back and we're able to give our recommendations and know where we feel the slide plane is and have confidence with it, because it's a dynamic process. And initially when we ran our lab, let me go back, before we did our drilling operation, we all went out and climbed around in the landslide and tried to come up with cross sections and figure out where the slide plane is and what was occurring. We did some preliminary analysis, and then we did the drilling operation. And once we did the drilling operation, we refined that analysis. Now, once we get the lab tests back, we'll refine it one more time. And then that's when Bridge Design has their preliminary design. They'll finalize theirs. It'll go to our structure construction and construction, and they'll be able to order the supplies. And then the wall will start being built. We're looking at every alternative we can. We're trying to see if we can start building a section of the wall and getting one lane open. But we have to assess it because this is multiple landslides. It's not just one, and we're concerned and we want to make sure we keep the public safe. Any questions?
Because, I mean, is that part of why this slid? Because of the water and the fault lines that are running throughout there? Is that part of why it's so extreme?
So the question was, thank you for your question about work that was done there last year, and are there multiple fault lines there? The CalTrans Maintenance Division did some work there last year. I'm not talking about geotech, I'm talking about the CalTrans local maintenance forces that removed some material and tried to clean up the slope area there. Now, what we have there happening now is something on a totally different scale, obviously. Now, the question about fault lines, I'm not a geotechnical expert. Is there something we can say?
Yeah, about the fault lines. I checked that a couple days ago. We are not in an Alquist Priolo fault zone. That's the number one thing. There is one off to, I believe, the north. We are in a higher seismic zone. This wall will be designed for that. Okay.
One second, we'll put you right on the microphone.
I want to address the other part of Highway 150, the undermining that's right down here that is going to be an issue. And then Denison grade is tenuous. I know that you guys have been patching that slide, but it is actively sliding. And if we get any more rain, it's going to come down. Every morning I go down and it's wet and there's more mud, and they patch it up during the day, and then the next day it's the same thing. So as the lady behind me said, we have one way out of here, and now we have two barriers to overcome and a third really big barrier. So I appreciate the work that it takes to get this major slide, but in the meantime, let's address these two big issues that if we, again, get any more measurable rain, are going to landlock us and going to be a real problem up here.
Thank you. A very important issue, and I appreciate your raising it here. So the question was, at other locations, including the undermined slope a quarter mile south of here, where there's one-way, where there are crews working and there's one-way traffic control, and there are multiple other areas where CalTrans is either working or is looking very carefully to keep a close eye on the condition of the roadway, because so the first location you mentioned, a quarter mile south of here, where the slope, downslope from the road eroded, and an emergency contractor has been working there to rebuild that slope so that we can repair the highway and get that second lane open again. I am not, and I don't know if anyone here is an expert on that project, which is separate from the big slide, but I do recall being informed that the work that was going on at that location with the undermined slope was progressing. Our emergency contractor was making good progress. I, right off the top of my head, don't actually have a report on where it stands right now because I'm not actually working on that project, but I can find out about it and I can give you an update. The big issue of getting as many areas open again as possible is important for the reason that you said. If there has to be an evacuation, we need to have traffic flowing as freely as possible. So once again, it does point out the need to stay informed about conditions, fires, or anything else that might lead to, or fire weather that might lead to the need for an evacuation, and to plan ahead and not wait till the last minute, but be ready to leave at the first moment that authorities advise you to evacuate. And CalTrans is working as hard as we can to get the road open so that we are in the best position at a moment like that. But if you do want to contact me so I know how to tell you about the progress of that other project, about the undermined slope, I'm very happy to get back to you. Yes. Yes, maintenance crews are keeping a very close eye on that and have been removing material that comes down. And anytime there's any kind of a storm event, our maintenance crews are scheduled around the clock, 24 hours, to be able to respond immediately if there's anything coming onto the highway there. Now, there's K-rail there. There's even heavy machinery positioned there so that if there is a need to react, we are able to do it. Mm-hmm. The answer is Denison Grade is an area with steep slopes where CalTrans has done a lot of work over many years. Is it safe? The highway is safe. The highway is safe. It would not be open for traffic if it was not safe. Well, okay. Thank you for your question about can we do anything about Denison Grade. Let me do more research into whether we have additional contracts planned for that specific location.
Hi, Mike. I'm Pam Colbert, and you and I emailed Dave, and I appreciate your response so quickly to give us information. My question is for Ventura County Fire and maybe Sheriff. If we do get an emergency situation, like the Thomas Fire and like this, and we don't have the access to Denison Grade, those of us that have lived here many years understand there are fire roads. They're locked, I get it, there's gates, and they're not perfect, but will you guys help us? And will you, if we get in a crisis and an evacuation, and open those gates and guide us down this mountain? Because we need that assurance that we can get out. And like Jessica is saying, we feel trapped in a crisis. So, what do you guys think?
Please repeat the question on the
That was a long question to repeat. Okay. So the question was, so we can repeat it, and first off, Dustin Gardner, your county fire chief. And the question was, if the community gets caught and both ways are blocked, will county fire or a fire agency be able to lead you on fire roads to get out? So let's start from where we're at right now in March, after significant amounts of winter rain that caused this issue. Our live fuels are well over 150% of their normal capacity. Go back to the Thomas Fire that Ms. Bell was talking about. Our live fuels were at 60% after 10 years of critical drought, and we were at day one of a 21-day east wind event. So very critical fire behavior in the Thomas Fire. We are way out of that kind of range or prescription right now for extreme fire events. Their projection of April, May, June, end of May, one lane, will still be well out of those thresholds of extreme fire behavior. If we push into the fall and we get into east winds and our fuels are that low, then I would suggest we will have more community meetings and talk about that, because we can use, if both ends get cut, we can use the fire roads. We can open them up and access them. We can also use temporary refuge areas. We've had incidents before where communities have been cut off on both sides, and we can refuge in the middle in safe spots, and we can use aerial evacs with helicopters. We can use guided evacuations with fire apparatus. We can get people out of communities. We had something very similar happen in Wheeler Gorge the first night of the Thomas fire, right, where we sheltered the whole community in Wheeler Gorge and were able to get them out following getting the road cleared. So I understand everybody's angst about being caught in here, and I understand the folks that lived through the Thomas fire. It was impactful. It was traumatic. I lived through it with you. We are a long ways from that type of fire event in this community being impacted by this closure. Could it happen again? Absolutely. Is it going to happen while this particular slide is closed? I'm highly doubtful. But I do share your angst and I do share your concern. It's like Supervisor LaVere said, we've addressed and moved companies up here. We've got full-time ambulances up here. We've got engine companies and ambulances in Santa Paula ready. Our sheriff has helicopters ready that can fly 24/7 up here. We will address your needs and we'll be here for you. As it was said earlier, be ready, right? The best thing to do is be ready to go early. Sign up for VCFD or VC.org or VC Emergency so you can get alerts, which I'm sure you've already done. I think everybody in this community has, and be prepared to get out and evac early. And we will constantly be communicating with you. Okay.
Thank you, Chief. The question was, why is it taking so long? Why isn't the material already being removed? Why isn't CalTrans using a contractor that's willing to go in right now and start removing the landslide material? And the impression is, and I appreciate your asking the tough question, the impression is CalTrans is doing nothing. The reality is there are multiple teams of CalTrans, designers, planners, builders. I'm leaving out some, but you get the idea. Multiple teams that are working on extended, accelerated pacing to get action here. So work is being done. You're just not seeing it because they're not out there on the highway right now. CalTrans is 100% committed to getting the highway open as soon as it can be done safely. I respect your point of view if you think that we should see it from your angle as far as safety, but we have procedures. We have policies that are tried and true, time-tested, so we're sticking with them. And you mentioned something about getting into the creek and doing some, you have some rugged physical conditions here in this terrain. So it's always got to be taken into account. I'm not blaming anything, but California does have very tough environmental laws, but that's just a small example of what has to be taken into account. Thank you for your comment, and I would just want to assure you that I appreciate your raising the issue.
Can we talk about the shuttle?
The question is, can we talk about the shuttle? I'd like to introduce Martin Erickson with the Ventura County Transportation Commission.
Thanks, Michael. I'm Martin Erickson. I'm the Executive Director of the Ventura County Transportation Commission. And I want to thank Vice Chancellor Kretschmer for hosting us here tonight. We have at VCTC a great and longstanding partnership with CalTrans, with the County of Ventura staff, and with both Supervisor LaVere and Supervisor Long's office. Since shortly after the slide, we have been looking into having a shuttle that will run on an emergency temporary basis. We have reached out to some of you in the audience, and I thank you for providing your input for that. I will be here after the meeting to talk in more detail, but we are hoping to get this shuttle running as soon as possible and as early as next week. We're looking at some final time points and coordinating with the construction and just some other events, but right now the plan is the shuttle would essentially replicate the routes that many of you are having to take right now, either above or below the slide in Santa Paula or in this area around. Eventually, there's a possibility that if there is some type of path developed, that the shuttle may change, and we would plan to just be adaptable and have the shuttle ready to respond to the success of the project CalTrans is working on. And ideally, in May, if a lane is opened up, then we would probably, that's when the shuttle would terminate. So it would be temporary, but again, we are looking to get that going as quickly as possible. And my team, in partnership with everybody here, is working on that as quickly as we can. And again, I will be here after the meeting to discuss the proposed route and share any additional information with you too. I also want to thank Office of Emergency Services. We have worked closely with them in disasters, weather-related disasters over the past several years. And we will work well in this one too. Thank you.
Mike, I want to thank you for being the lightning rod for everyone's angst from the job. Addressing two issues south of the college's entrance. There are two projects there. There's the road that is eroding, and there is the bridge abutment, which was also eroding and still under construction. Those two projects have not had a single ounce of work on them since February 17th. Kind of makes no sense as to why those projects haven't continued. Sort of makes one wonder if they don't want to come through Ojai to do those projects. Which maybe gets kind of to our point of the necessity of opening up Santa Paula. So, those two issues, they're serious issues. There's no work being done on them. Makes zero sense. We're paying people to sit out here with generators, which just to direct traffic to a one-way, to a dead end. It makes no sense. Everybody's worried about the environment, so we're burning generators all night long. Makes no sense. So maybe we should work on those while the road is closed. The second thing, the Denison Gray slide appears to be in a worse position than the one in Santa Paula. As someone mentioned earlier, very steep terrain. You can look at the top of the slide and see it's a significant ways up the mountain.
great hindrance to successful work. Not that you can't do things safely, or that all safety measures are an hindrance, right? But when I first started in the Forest Service, the forest ranger for the Lowell National Forest came and met with us and said, we're actually reducing a great number of our safety measures because they're injuring more people when we fight fire. So again, I hear a lot about safety here. I know what that means in government speak, and I think everyone else here does too. And we would just like to see a little bit more confidence building from this. Thank you.
Thank you. The question related to work at other locations on Route 150 and the pace of the visible work at those excuse me, the pace of work at those locations and the importance or relative level of importance given to safety in such activities. I am prepared here to speak about the emergency project to work on the slide stabilization and removal. I didn't prepare to speak about other projects on Route 150, but I'm happy to provide an update about those, but they're separate projects, and therefore I'll have to do some research in order to give you an accurate, up-to-the-minute status report. I will say regarding safety, CalTrans workers work alongside traffic that's moving at 65 miles an hour, and we cannot afford to not put safety as our number one priority, and that includes people who travel on our state highway system. We're not going to do work that we feel is rushed and might result in an unsafe condition. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I can assure you, though, even though you don't see all of the teams that are working behind the scenes, there are engineers, designers, highway designers, planners, professionals who have been working since the slide and are continuing to work at all hands on deck environment to get all of this done as quickly as it can be done. That's really what's happening. We appreciate your support and your patience, and we just ask you to let us complete the work successfully so that we can get it open with a project that will keep the highway open in a safe condition.
Hi, my name is Thomas College, and I'm old, and I'm going to give you a little history. In 1969, we had a flood, not like these baby floods, a real flood. It washed both these bridges down in the creek here, okay? There was a big slide down there at Boo Market. I think they cleaned it up in about 4 days. That dirt isn't going to fly out there. You just need to get somebody to start moving it out. Get rid of some of the engineers. Just fix the tractor drivers. I'm sorry, but this is not a big weird project. It's just a bunch of dirt in the road. This bridge down here, both these bridges, every bridge in the county washed out in 1969 except for the 101 bridge. I put in the Pine Creek Bridge in about a week, and my pack was there for 50 years, no engineering, just a bunch of rocks and some, asphalt. This bridge washed out. They got 2 8-foot culverts. I still have them on my farm. And they put them down in the creek. They had the road open in about 2 weeks. Can you imagine if these bridges went in the creek today, how long it would take for CalTrans to fix it? I think you should just start moving that dirt. I'm sorry, I don't think it's going to fall on anybody's head. There's a lot of things in this world that are dangerous. Going to war is dangerous. Probably a lot more dangerous than working for CalTrans. I just think you big voters and start moving that dirt. It's not going to
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your point of view, and I appreciate your raising the issue. I heard what you said loud and clear. I didn't hear a question. I heard a good point of view, and I respect it. CalTrans is doing it. We may not be doing it in the way you would want it done, but CalTrans is doing it. Thank you, sir.
I want to know more about that Veterans Code Section 146 and the State Disaster Declaration. Again, it's talking about doing the military. So once more, I'm requesting why we are not engaging with our local military, a base that is here in Ventura County, a base that is full of civil engineers, people who build temporary causeways and temporary infrastructure that is meant to be efficient, that is meant to be sustainable, to help people in exactly these situations. This is what cities do. So I'm just trying to understand why, while CalTrans is focused on the landslide and not why we don't have this other entity that's not distracting CalTrans from their task, but is creating that pathway that you guys have said for you to focus on the footpath was going to take your attention off the landslide. So we have these other entities. They're a local entity. So why can't we engage them on this? They get involved with civil aid situations. Whenever there's a hurricane, the CEs are out there. It's not only the National Guard. So we have them here. They have the equipment too for any of these things. So I'm just curious. I've asked about this a few times. Other people have mentioned it, but I've never heard any of you guys give us an answer or response or direction to this. Additionally, for the fire department perhaps, once more, we want those fire roads and how those are closed off, but they're also connected to other service roads. And then also, I printed out the fire road listing. It might be a little dated, this could have changed since 2017, but it's on the internet since 2009. And it shows me, or tells me, all of the fire roads and how they do connect to our local surrounding area here, as well as those areas utility roads. It also mentions how they're not all weather roads, so they're maintained throughout the year, and they're maintained with, we have all the equipment cities have, in addition to fire department. So is it not something that we can consider to bring them out here to maybe make a viable service road and access road for at least the people of a very local community that are just trying to get to market school, those farmers, same thing. And is this really not something to consider an option for us? Can you please answer these questions to me?
The question was, why has CalTrans not enlisted the military to build a pedestrian path or in any other capacity? And the second question was about working on the fire roads so that they could be used as, on a temporary basis during this emergency, at least for the people in this, for and by the people in this area. Sarah, thank you for raising those two questions. They're very relevant. I will answer the first one because it relates to CalTrans, and I'll defer to someone who could speak about those roads that are not part of the state highway system. I did mention that there is a reality that, but it's a secondary element. It's a smaller part of the answer. Yeah, if we were building a pedestrian path, one could argue that it would be somewhat of a distraction from the main mission of stabilizing and clearing the slide and getting the road open. But that's not the main reason, not at all. The main reason is this. CalTrans had this area crawling with right-of-way agents and engineers and road planners and people with degrees who were experienced in building anything, even something as fairly basic as a pedestrian path. And what we discovered was you can't do it. And why can't you do it? Because either you put it right at the slide, and by the way, the slide is still expanding very slowly, but that's the reality. We can't put people there. Or we put them farther away from the slide. And guess what? CalTrans doesn't own that property. We only own the right-of-way right along the road and a few feet on each side. But once you get away from the road, that's not our property, so who's going to give permission? Well, there were some intensive discussions. People have private property rights. People have concerns about liability. I'm not saying that that was the reason, but you can understand people have these concerns. Ultimately, it didn't go anywhere, despite the fact that many people spent many days working on this with everything that they could muster. Plan B, Plan C, Plan D, none of it worked. I regret to say that that's where we are today, but that's the situation. Now, regarding the fire roads, I don't know if anybody has something. Chief? Thank you.
Was it Sarah? So fire roads, a lot of the same veins. They're on private property, and fire roads are built, maintained, and really used to divert fire away from communities. There are agreements that we have with homeowners, ranchers, and our federal land partners to put those in and maintain them, and they're used to create backfires and diversion fires to move fires from communities. So we can open them, and we do open them and maintain them. We've got 3 equipment operators that run every day maintaining those roads throughout the county. If we ever needed to use them in an extreme emergency to move vehicles, we could, but it would have to be under an extreme emergency event. We couldn't do it as a planned event, or as we're talking about, because of the liability with homeowners, and they're not secured, maintained roads. So they are there, they are connected, they are a piece for safety, but we couldn't open them up and use them for regular thoroughfares. If we did, I have a feeling we would lose our capacity to have fire roads state and nationwide, because the landowners would look and go, you're not using them for emergencies anymore. So I understand your question, and as far as the National Guard piece, or the CBs, my dad came from that CB base, so I can appreciate their capacity. They don't come out for things like this until, and our OES director would have to give details, but until there's national emergencies delegated for areas. We've asked the same questions with tsunamis and floods and things in the past, and I think it may take an act of Congress to get them out here. Saying that, not as a joke, but they don't come out for stuff like this very often. Any questions I can answer?
Thanks, Chief.
I don't necessarily expect you to be able to answer this, Mike, but maybe somebody else in your group here. Can someone explain why the slide on Denison, which moves every day, which seems to be a safety factor, right? Why that one is worked on daily and the others aren't? And then also, how long did the core samples take to understand that slide? Like, how long was that whole process? Because again, it looked pretty significant. So if there's anyone who can speak to why those are different situations, that might be helpful.
Okay, so thank you. The question is comparing and contrasting the Denison grade situation with this big slide. I don't know that there's anyone here who is prepared to speak about Denison grade. It is a smaller issue that our maintenance crews are on. I'll be happy to investigate whether there is a plan a project that would result in something of a larger scale happening there, but I don't have that information right now. Thank you. The question is, why don't I have more information about more locations on Route 150 tonight? I'm not our Highway 150 expert in that sense, but I can get information on those. All I need is information on how for me to get back in touch with you. I also want to apologize preemptively if the supervisor's office forwarded those to anybody in CalTrans, anybody at all, and they didn't reach me in a timely manner, and maybe that's why I didn't know that I should have done that particular research for tonight. So if that was the case, I want to apologize. I will be happy to get that information for you. Just tell me where to send it to you, please, and thank you. Please reach out to me with a question like that. Reach out to me and I will get information for you. Thank you. Thank you. Chief, would you come here? Thank you.
I would just like to say and reassure everybody that the moment that we realized that, well, let me start by saying everyone that lives north of the slide up to about Sulphur Mountain Road, you are in an area that is serviced by resources from our Fillmore station. Once we realized that those deputies could not access your residence because of the slide, we immediately shifted our resources, and now OHI is covering this particular area. And we have the resources to do so, and it doesn't limit our response time. Believe it or not, the response time from OHI to this particular area and from Fillmore to this particular area are pretty much the same. So we have the resources to be able to do that. We've done so, and we are constantly monitoring the calls for service that come in to make sure we are servicing your calls appropriately. Does anybody have any other questions while I'm up here? Okay. Sure. So that's a little bit bigger of a question, but basically it's all based on geographics and per capita. And so it's broken down by areas that we can manage and service and have reasonable response times. And the area of OHI, we've determined that the area that we cover in terms of our beats, OHI, as you know, goes all the way out to Rose Valley. We go up to Sulphur Mountain and then service the city. Fillmore goes all the way out to Piru and then comes all the way up here to about Sulphur Mountain Road. So it's really broken down into geographic areas that we can service and we can manage and give the best response times that we can based on the calls or that an area has. I know it doesn't make sense totally geographically based on the areas, but that's how it's broken down to. Now, we've changed that. That doesn't mean over the years that we haven't changed that based on the number of residents that are in an area or something of that nature. But at this time, that's how it's broken down into. Hopefully that answers your question. So on average, our response time, we look at our response time based on priority 1 calls. Priority 1 calls are those that require an emergency response, like lights and sirens, basically. So in the county areas at any given time, I don't know what Fillmore's priority 1 response calls are, but I know for Ojai, our response calls in our area average anywhere between 10 and 12 minutes. Right, that includes Upper Ojai. 26 minutes drive time, but we're talking about average times for a priority 1 call, which is lights and sirens in an emergency situation. I definitely wouldn't say that. You know, you can assure that if you call, you are going to get a response. Whether we have to, in an urgent emergency, if we got to get the helicopter up, we'll get the helicopter up. We will get there. We will get there.
So, do we need to call a different number to get you guys?
No, you call 911 and it goes to the same dispatch. If So if it's a non-emergency number, you can call our business line for our dispatcher, and I can give you that phone number now. And that goes, so if you call directly to to the Fillmore station, they will transfer you to our main dispatch center, which is in Ventura. And then our patrol deputies get dispatched from that patrol center. Same with Ojai. If you call our Ojai station, the business Ojai line, we will transfer you to that same dispatch center, and then our deputies get dispatched from there. I hope that didn't confuse you more. Yes, so we actively have, we may not, based on the calls for service, we may not always have a patrol deputy in this area, but this is part of their beat area. So a lot of times we ask them that they need to actively patrol their areas. So at any given time, there is a patrol deputy that might be in the area at any given time during their shift. The business line to our dispatch center is 654-9511. But again, if there's any questions at all about anything, call 911 and let the dispatchers figure it out whether it's an emergency or not. But if it's just simply a question that you have about, response or something that you're trying to get a hold of me, you can call that business line and request to speak with me or the watch commander that's working at the time in the dispatch center. Mm-hmm. Sure. Any other questions for me while I'm here?
I wanted to be on CalTrans again.
Oh, okay.
I'm just curious, it seems like there's a complete lack of communication between all the projects affecting this one area throughout Highway 150. And if there's a liaison or some kind of entity like that, shouldn't we have one? Someone that can coordinate efforts, information, that kind of thing?
So the question, thank you for the question, which is there any kind of coordination about the projects on Route 150? There certainly is. My role is to present information to the public and to the news media whenever there's something of interest that people want to know about, that people ask about. And at that point, I go to the people who have that information, who are doing the hard work. I'm not talking only about the construction crews. I'm even talking about the whole process from planning to design and all kinds of technical reviews before the work actually begins at the location. And there are people who are coordinating all of that. They're in constant contact with each other. They're constantly examining everything together and discussing and looking for better ways to do things and faster ways to do things. But my role is not that. And so that's why I'm here with information about the slide and what we're going to do to get it open. And before I forget, I also want to put your mind to rest on the detail that CalTrans is very carefully monitoring the slide and the condition of the slide. It's a continuing, nonstop activity that we have at the location. But to get back to your point, so I'm just the messenger with the information that people are interested in. If there is information that you and your friends are interested in about 150 as an overall thing, let me know how to get in touch with you so that I can give you that information. I'll be very happy to provide it. I'll go to the people who know this, who know the information, so that I can give you accurate information. You're welcome. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Christine. We live behind Santa Paula, Muku and Pine Grove. And we have, I think this question is actually for Supervisor LaVere. We have a slide that's blocking half of our road. It's lit on February 19th and it hasn't ever been cleaned up. How do we, we're told we can contact the county. So how do we get a request to get equipment there and clear the slide?
So you're saying there was a slide on your property? Oh. On Highway 150? A moop? Then email me, and if it's a county road, then we'll make sure that a county public works team gets out there ASAP. Just email my office and we'll make sure that that request gets made ASAP. Thank you.
This is actually for Supervisor LaVere. So there are many of us that have businesses in Ventura County. Some are small, some are large, and we're impacted by the loss of revenue. Are there going to be any funds available for these small business people? We have, many people are impacted, and not by any fault of our own. So are those resources available to these small business people? We're an educational farm for 37 years, serving children in Ventura County, and we had to cancel all of our educational tours for spring. I know the Macaulay's, I know the Stagecoach, I know the Summit, plus all the ranchers and the farmers. So is there anything available to help people?
I don't want to mislead you. I don't believe so. I can speak to our CEO. I don't believe there are funds available for situations like this to deal with business losses. I've never seen it in my 3 years on the board. I can reach out to we can speak with our CEO to see if there's anything that I'm not aware of, but in my experience, we don't have those monies in situations like this. And I don't want to mislead you and say there are, because I'm not aware of them.
I'll take the transit part first, and then I'll let CalTrans answer the question about the footpath. But we did, I think Vice Chancellor Kretschner shared, along with others from last week's meeting, potential information about routing and and a tentative schedule. Again, we're working on finalizing that imminently, and we'll be sharing that with all of you through various means of communication, the supervisor's website, CalTrans websites, to make sure that you're aware of that. We would like to start it as soon as feasible, and possibly as early as next week. And I think this second part of your question involved the footpath in the CalTrans area. I'll let.
Regarding the footpath, were you asking specifically about, isn't that water plant publicly owned or something like that? I believe it's private property. It was investigated. We had very cordial, CalTrans had very cordial discussions with the people involved in that. However, that is so close to the slide. Going around the building. I beg your pardon? Huh? The footpath. Okay. I don't have information about people receiving citations, if that's what you're saying, for using that footpath. I know that footpath from personal experience because I walked there right after the slide as I was looking for myself to see what was going on. On the far side of the covered reservoir, the area available for a footpath is so narrow and would require such significant work to make it safe, even though people are using it. But the big issue is not even what would it take to make a safe footpath. The issue is that's private property. CalTrans cannot just force something to happen on private property. Yeah, it's a water irrigation reservoir to irrigate, well, I assume crops, but I don't really know that for a fact, but right, makes sense. It's a water irrigation reservoir that's covered, and it's private property. It's not publicly owned, and they have a right to do what they feel is best for their needs and, et cetera. So that's why CalTrans does not have a place that's safe to put a footpath where we have the authority and jurisdiction. And I'm sorry that that's the situation, because I'm mindful of what a hassle it is when you're faced with not being able to use your road. I mean, it boggles the mind, and we're well aware of that. And if we had a magic solution to snap our fingers and make it happen, we would have done that already a long time ago. Thank you for the question.
You're correct. That is an agricultural reservoir. And my question was, does CalTrans have a plan to get that back online so ranchers can start watering mid-April? Because service very good ranchers.
Was it off?
Sorry. Let me try that one time. I can verify this. I understand it as an agricultural reservoir. It was damaged in the slide. Its equipment for electrical pumps are obviously damaged. Is CalTrans already working with that private property owner? And is there a clear plan on how you get that reservoir back online? By mid-April, they'll be needing water to treat. Even though we've had all this rain, we have our own ranch on our property, and we know that we're going to need a lot of those trees. So have you been actively working with that property owner to get that out online? What is their plan? And if there hasn't been a really push that, given their impact, and trying to partner with them, if we're not reaching out to them to help them figure out how to get that back online, that needs to be part of the whole plan. Otherwise, we're not looking at everything, we're just focused on only the road.
Thank you for that question, Mark. The question was, has CalTrans worked with the operators of that water irrigation plant, which is used for agricultural irrigation? It's at the corner of Bridge Road and Highway 150. It's that covered roof there. CalTrans, well, obviously, I appreciate your raising the question, Mark, because food grows where water flows, and we all like to eat. So yes, it's a high priority. And CalTrans has been in contact in multiple conversations with the people who operate Canyon Irrigation Company, I believe is the name. And we've been in very close contact with them since right after the slide. Obviously, it impacted them heavily also. And I don't have actual current information about any plan that would involve taking their facility offline or getting it back online. But, and CalTrans is not, how should I say this? CalTrans is not, you know, a pipeline regulatory organization, but obviously we work closely with anybody who's impacted in any way. So nobody's given me information about how they specifically would be affected. I'm happy to look into that question for you and determine where it stands with CalTrans. The chart we had earlier did not include one irrigation pipeline that I believe might be theirs, in which the last information I had said it was still in operation. And right. Right.
If they start, hey, we're going to get in here and start moving dirt, I'm sure you're concerned. You guys need to coordinate.
Well,
in fact, those discussions that have happened, knowing that those ranchers need that water those trees, that should happen tomorrow. That you guys should start figuring that out with them. How we coordinate removing this dirt so they can replace their electrical, replace their pumps.
Right. So the follow-up question was, their pumps are damaged, and CalTrans really needs to coordinate with them so they can get back in operation quickly, because you know, this is crucial. One of the unfortunate realities of this situation is if CalTrans removes that material is holding up more material farther uphill. So if we remove that material, more material is going to come down on their facility. I might point out that when I talked to the gentleman at the irrigation company right after the slide, no, let me rephrase that. When I talked to the gentleman at the irrigation company a few days after the slide, he told me that their roof was not damaged by the original slide, but it was damaged by more slide material that had come down in a couple of days after the big slide. So if we remove material right now, we're putting them at a level of risk. Rest assured, CalTrans is in contact with them and is coordinating with them to keep everybody informed about what it looks like we'll be able to do and when we'll be able to do it safely. Thank you for that question. The question was, is there an email list that you can sign up for to get advisories, notices, information about these kinds of meetings or any other new information? And the answer is yes. You can send an email to me, my first name Michael, my last name Como, at dot.ca.gov. If you don't want to spell out my name, just send it to d7inquiries@dot.ca.gov. I will include you and anybody else who would like to be included on any email that has substantial information about the next meeting or a significant change in the situation at the slide.
Is there any more questions we can answer for you folks? We do have everybody that's going to stay after if you want to ask them personally, but if not, we don't want to shut it down. It's too early. We want to make sure we take care of each and everyone in there. But if there are more questions, we do have the sheriffs, we have the fire, we have DCPC, we have the supervisor, we have Thomas Aquinas. Anything else that can help, we would love to answer those questions. And it's not one-on-one. You, sir? 1 second.
My question would be, moving forward, obviously, that road is in horrible condition. Moving forward, is CalTrans going to be proactive with the conditions that are there, rather than, 3 months from now, you get that slide out of there, and then a quarter mile up the road, you lose the road because it's undermined, and if the bridge is undermined, are you guys going to be proactive? Well, you can, right now, it makes it easy, because there's no traffic, right? You got traffic control on the hook, you got R&R on the hook, all these people are being paid, all that equipment's being paid, you know that, it's on a forced account. Why not be proactive about it, rather than reactive, waiting for it to happen? There is so much of that road, south of Second Park, that it's undermined. You can park a car in there. There's a lot of money was spent to do that slope protection and erosion control, and right now it's just sitting there being eroded, it's being damaged. Are you going to be proactive about fixing these things so we're not here again in 2 months?
Thank you for the question. The question is, will CalTrans be proactive in taking care of Highway 150, in particular, taking this opportunity to load up the road with a bunch more construction equipment, with a bunch more traffic delays? I apologize, sir. I've been here so long, I feel like I know you, so bear with me. But I do apologize if that wasn't a good comment. But that was your question was, can we do more there now? My response, honestly, is this probably isn't a great time to do anything that would further impede people from using the road, because only one lane is available. However, I'm going to ask our construction division, our construction team, the leaders, the top people. This gentleman said, can we do more right now on 150? What can you do? And I will do that immediately. Thank you for the question. It's a good idea.
Hi, my name is Kathy.
that way. I appreciate your comment that faith can move mountains. I would ask you to pray that this particular mountain not move at all.
As you can see, my guys' information is right above it, just so I know. You guys' personal cell phone, you should text me all the time. Email me if you want to listen. You guys have pen and paper, great. If you don't, come on down here, I'll shoot pen and paper as well. And again, if you're right here to answer any questions that you have that I haven't asked or want some clarification.
The mail was the only update on the mail that we have to go to Ojai Post Office and fill out forms.
You can email me, but yeah. Did you send me an email? I don't want to accuse you. I respond to almost every email I get, and I do. We can argue about it, and I apologize. But I do not recall receiving an email from you, and I apologize if I missed it. But to answer your question, if you email me, I will put you in touch with Congressman Carbajal because it's a federal operation, and his office put it together, and he asked that people reach out to him, and his office can explain the process for getting mail in Ojai. But he did tell me make sure to apologize, but people have to go in person to the Ojai post office to verify their address to get the mail rerouted to Ojai. And John, can I have you close out?
You bet.
Thank you. And
I'm John David, Mr. Director here, and I just want to say thank you to all of you for coming as well on behalf of the college. It's a privilege to host you. Mark Kretschmer organized some cookies and coffee and water on the corner for all of us to enjoy. So if you'd like to join us, you're all welcome. And I do also just want to mention that I know for some of you at least this is your first time on the campus. It's dark outside right now. If you ever want to come back and get a tour in the daytime, I would enjoy bringing you around at any point. So thank you all for coming. Thank you, Supervisor.